All right, we're doing this, everybody. Welcome to Real Live Talk. I'm here today with
We're
Josh
live.
Hogancamp. We are live.
We
Thank you
are
for
alive.
interrupting me, by the way.
You're welcome. You know, it's all about good transitions here.
Yeah. All right. I already see how this is going to go. Hey, all right. Well, let's not. But before that, let me just mention this is the first time that Josh and I have talked face to face in what did we decide? My wedding day?
I think your wedding day,
My wedding day.
which is
So
pretty nuts.
13 years. We just celebrated our 13-year
Crazy.
anniversary. So I think I needed that time of just distance.
Yeah. No. I completely agree.
But I think it's been long enough.
Our 3 years of friendship was so traumatic to your psyche.
So for every 3 years of friendship, we need 13 years.
We can't talk for
off.
15 years. See you when I'm 50, buddy.
Yeah, this will be good. So, well, look.
Okay, so this is crazy. So why haven't we talked in so long though? Because we were friends in our freshman year, and then we were roommates.
I mean,
shut up. We were friends. We
I
lived
was
in
just
Florida.
Really nice
we lived
back then, Josh.
we lived in Florida together for a summer. We were roommates, and then why haven't we talked in so long?
I don't know, man. Not jokingly, like, because I mean, I could keep joking about this,
of course,
and it could be, but no, but I think for real, I think we're just idiots.
Like that's fair.
If I
I'm
had
okay
to
with
be,
that.
at least for me, I mean, at least on my end. No, I mean, I think, well, okay, so here's the deal: we were together, we were roommates. It was glorious. All of that, and then like I moved to Mexico, and then you became a missionary, and
I moved to Asia.
You moved to
Wait,
Asia.
how did you move to Mexico and you didn't? You were a missionary. Would you consider yourself a missionary in that situation?
Yeah, I mean technically, so
Okay.
Not fully, not like you.
Oh come on, there's no hierarchy here.
I don't give myself that status because my wife is from where I was a missionary to, so it was a little bit different. But we were Elam missionaries.
So this is interesting though, because I lived in Asia for 4 years, and I was dealing with cross-cultural stress all the time. Now you were getting married, and that the cross-culturalness of your marriage plus an extra of living there. What do you think that was helpful? Was it stressful? Because anybody that's not realizing the stress that you're getting into if you're marrying in different cultures. I mean, I married a white girl from Western New York, and we still had cultural clashes because of where we grew up, right?
Yeah.
So was living in that country, was that helpful in that transition, or was it still really difficult?
Well, I feel like it was helpful. Here's the thing that for me, like normally when you go into another country and you're like learning a language and all of that, normally like we would all agree that the best way to learn a language is to kind of immerse yourself in the culture
100%.
and all of that. And so for me, because I had my wife to escape to, because we learned to speak English together because I didn't know Spanish when I met her. And so our relationship, we were comfortable speaking English with one another. We spoke English at home and stuff like that. So I kind of had that escape where like half the day I was immersed in, in office setting at churches and stuff like that and talking to people and having to figure out how to fumble my way through communication.
I got you.
And there was all that. But then like the other half of the day, I was able to just kind of use English and all of that. And so I sort of had that escape. So on the one hand, for that kind of stuff, like the sort of logistical stuff, it did take me a little bit longer than I think it could have for me to become real comfortable with the language and all of that kind of stuff. Like we had people that came down for like a visit and would just stay with a family that only spoke Spanish, and they'd be there for a month and they would speak better Spanish than me after I was there for 8 months. So it was pretty crazy as far as that goes. But it definitely felt really helpful for me to have her there to like navigate different things, even simple things like grocery shopping, which even that becomes difficult to try to figure out how much this costs and what this is and where to find this and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I would do some of that by myself anyway, so it wasn't all the time. But yeah, I mean, I would say that for me, for like my mental functioning and all of that, I think it was definitely helpful to have her there.
And
But I
she
do
just
see
went
the
through,
merit in being there, completely on your own as well.
and she just went through 3 years in a cross-cultural context
For
herself.
sure.
So she was coming right off of that situation. And so I'm assuming that was really helpful, that there's multiple bonding experiences from both sides of the culture when the other person was in the other cultures. I'm guessing that was helpful.
Yeah, man. By the way, it's really cool that you decided to interview me today on
I like asking
on
questions.
your
People are
podcast.
fascinating.
No, just kidding.
Today, real talk with Duke Lamashra.
No, yeah, but for sure, and those are really, really good questions that I guess I haven't really thought much about until just now. So I'm just kind of thinking through some of this with you, but yeah,
By the
for
way,
sure.
this episode is brought to you by Arizona Green Tea with Cucumber, and also Josh Whippy. I want to plug him real quick. Just go to anything he has. Just go talk to him.
Just plug Josh Whippy.
He's getting plugged all day.
Just send him all your money at joshwhippy.paypal.org.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, that was. Did you see that the other day when he was just
that's why
like everything?
It was hilarious. He was like, "Oh, markers, Sharpie markers."
Under Armour, shout out to Under Armour. No, but so anyway, I started to say at the beginning here that Josh Hogancamp is a former missionary through Campus Target. I don't know what to do with my hands. He's a former missionary through Campus Target, currently serves on the Global Missions Committee for Elam Fellowship. Mm-hmm. He's also the director of marketing at College Assistance Plus, which is an organization that helps families save money on college. Definitely want to talk about that. He's passionate about revival, raising up leaders, building bridges to strengthen believers in the body of Christ. And most importantly, he's from the greatest state ever. And well, you already know that he's my former roommate and all that good stuff. So
the 609, man, 609,
bro, the 908 is where I'm from. And I found out that Alex Seidler was also from the 908, and I didn't realize that until just like the last podcast we did.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's always clear that there's something wrong with both of you. So
so now there's the common denominator. We were a little bit more north of you. Yes. Yeah, Josh has some funny things to say about South Jersey. But yeah, man. So that's the difference. That's why I'm a Giants fan and you're an Eagles fan.
Exactly. I live about 15 minutes south of Trenton. Well, I grew up 15 minutes south of Trenton, and that's usually the line. Burlington County down is South Jersey. Mercer County up is North Jersey.
Yeah. And by the way, I would definitely normally have all kinds of nasty things to say about the Eagles, but
the Giants and Eagles both suck.
The whole thing is a dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's just, there's no point.
Okay, I have a question. No, we can talk about football another time. Anyway, I was going to say, people are expecting the Cowboys to win, but Dak Prescott just broke his leg in half last year. How is that going to happen? I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We'll see.
I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. The Washington won the division at 7-9, right?
The Washington football team.
They don't even have a name anymore. Anyway. But yeah, bud, I'm pumped to talk to you today, man. Glad you're here. Thanks for doing this.
We had so much fun. I mean, we talked briefly. We were roommates, and we spent a summer in Florida together, and we always had a blast and always had a lot of laughs. So it's great to talk to you too.
Yeah, but well, before we get into like maybe some serious stuff, we do need to adjust the elephant in the room.
What elephant is this?
Well, we just need to talk. We just need to acknowledge Steve the Seal.
Oh my God.
We really need to do this. So
I was actually looking. So you want to tell the story?
I would actually love for you to tell the story.
Okay. So Steve the Seal, we were out a couple weeks ago. You actually had James Dodswhite on your podcast.
Shout out.
And so he decided to, well, through our mutual friend Mark, we went down to Tampa. And we were working at Busch Gardens, and we were interning at church. Was it New Life?
That's probably Grace Family.
Life. Grace Family.
Grace
if
family
you put
church.
Grace and Life and Family together, it's basically half the churches in in America. So we're good. Grace Family. And so we were interns there, and we worked with the youth group, and it was a blast with our friend Megan, who I haven't talked to since then.
Yeah,
there's probably a connection there. And so I was actually talking to a friend about that event that we threw. It was a summer water party basically for a bunch of the
Yeah, man.
and it was a blast. One of the games that we had was slip and slide kickball, where
Kickball,
you would
yeah.
slip and slide into kiddie pools, and that was a blast. But we made a bunch of commercials beforehand to show to the youth group of like how many kids were in that youth group, like 400, 300, right around.
Yeah,
It was
more. I mean,
hundreds.
I think it was 3 to 400
Yeah.
in the junior high, and then another at least 200 probably in the high school. So
So we
pretty
made these
crazy.
commercials, and one of the things that we did was we bought a big bright yellow Steve the Seal, and it was a blow up seal, like for like you'd have in a pool. And so he was our mascot for the rest of
Yep.
the summer. So
Yeah.
he was in our commercial. I need to find that, and I think it's on my old computer. I'll send it to you. It was incredible. And then he also hung in our room for the whole year, I believe. Now I don't remember what.
Yeah.
So he was hanging. He was hanging like it's probably 3.5 foot long seal, and we just hung him up in our room. Which, by the way,
Yeah,
there
that's
was
right.
no room in that room. I don't know why
That
we
was the
decided.
smallest room
Oh, it was ridiculous.
ever. In Phelan Hall, by the way. Like
Yes.
Phelan Hall, that's got to be the biggest oversight in college history to name your hall Phelan.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Just
so
give up. Just
Steve
quit.
the Seal hung out with us for the year.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what happened to him. I think I actually got him home somehow, and I'm not sure what happened to him, but
Yeah, I
he
was
was
gonna ask
amazing.
you because I couldn't remember. I thought you had taken him.
I think I
Um,
took property. So
but so we don't know. We don't know where he ended up.
he was great though. He was fun.
Yeah, he
My
was.
my favorite one was us. I think it was you escaping out of the car and then running into the pool and jumping in the pool because Steve wanted water so bad. It was awesome.
Yeah, so we recorded these commercials with Steve in like we were in fountains, like so in front of these like housing developments. We would just go to a random housing development where there would be this like nice pristine fountain, and we would hop in the fountain with Steve the Seal and video cameras
These are like
and
$400,000 homes, and you have these knucklehead 20-year-olds in fountains in their bathing suits. I mean, it
yeah,
was
man.
Florida though, so anything goes.
But that was a legit summer. It was
It
pretty
was fun.
awesome. I've played that since then, by the way. That kickball, slip and slide kickball. We played that
Oh,
with our church
it's
last year, I
incredible.
think. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's
great.
awesome.
Yeah,
So much fun.
yeah, and we invented it, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'd
Well,
never heard of it before. I'm sure someone had done it before, but anyway. So yeah, buddy. Well, give me kind of an update. Not an update. That's not the right word. Sort of like history from Elam from the last time I saw you, which was on my wedding day, apparently, to now. Like, what have you been up to? I mean, obviously, I know
the
the
gists.
overall picture
Yeah.
of the missions work and stuff like that, but I'd love to just hear a little bit about the journey that you've been on with the Lord since
Yeah.
then until now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to school, went to Elam, graduated. I was in the youth pastor. Youth pastor
You graduated like
something.
summa cum laude, right?
I have no idea. Definitely not.
Just kidding.
So I went through the youth pastor track and did that, and did that because I had really influential youth pastor in my life when I was growing up, and I was like, okay, if I could help people in this way. And so immediately after that, though, I was a 20. It was actually the fall of my senior year, and our mutual friend Costa and I were sitting together not even together, but in a chapel, and we heard about Campus Target. And one of our good friends, well, actually, Alex has been here before. He was over in Asia at the time, and some other friends, Drew, and some other friends we knew. And we kind of basically just texted, "Hey, we don't have anything going on." And this is my thought: I don't have anything going on. I didn't really feel ready to step into a youth pastor role. Why don't I go spend 9 months over in Asia, just because I don't have anything tying me down, and let me just go have a little adventure. And I was really never into like evangelism or missions work before, which sounds funny, but that's the
Yeah.
reality. And so I was just going because it was an adventure. It was fun. And I was like, hey, I'm doing stuff for God in another country. This is not a bad thing. I'll come back in 9 months and I'll start my life, whatever that looks like. And so basically when I got, there's a whole other story of me actually getting engaged a couple months before I left, and my fiance wasn't with me. And that
Wow.
was a whole other thing. That was fun.
Wow. Yeah, I bet.
Which included, I'll take a sidetrack. I'll send you this photo another time. Is there was a bet made that first year I was growing my beard and I was growing my hair, and I didn't cut my hair at all or my beard. And Alex, who's actually my roommate, was like, "Dude, you smell like cheese." I was like, "Okay."
You smell like cheese.
Because the bet was if I didn't shave, I wouldn't shave or cut my hair. Again, I was 21 years old, and my fiance was on the other side of the world. There
Yeah.
was no reason for hygiene going on there.
No reason.
No
There was
reason.
probably some reason for hygiene. Let's be honest,
Maybe, but
Josh.
like the basic stuff, not like looking,
Yeah.
not like a homeless
Yeah,
man.
I got you.
And so halfway through the year, I was about to see my fiance for the first time in 5 months, 4 months, whatever it was. And then, okay, so that bet, let's back off that bet. But the new bet is if you shave your head like Friar Tuck. So I had really long hair and a huge beard, and I shaved all the way down
No
just
way.
the very top of my head. So it was complete. So I looked exactly like Friar Tuck. And that's how I saw my wife Kelsey for the first time in 5 months.
What did she
So
say?
she was just like,
She,
"What the
I
hell? What
immediately
the hell
regret
did
this
you do?"
decision.
She's like, "Here's the ring back." No, it was funny. And so I went through that year in Asia, and one of the things that was crazy, if you've never been in another, outside of America or outside of places that hasn't heard about Jesus,
Hmm.
is that you sit down with people and you start talking about who he is and what he's done, and they
Yeah.
literally don't know what you're talking about. Like
Mm.
anybody here, you go down almost any town in the U.S. and you pass 17 churches, and everybody, some whether you're saying like they've heard the gospel, whatever that means for
Right.
you,
Yeah. Yeah.
they understand, they have opportunity. But then you go to another place and they have literally never heard anything about who Jesus is. And God just interacts with those people in such a powerful way that changes you. And so halfway through the year of that, I was just going because I was just having fun and being adventurous and doing it for a good cause.
Yeah.
I basically said, God, I don't know what this is. I never thought I was going to be a missionary, but as long as you want me here, I'll be here.
Hmm.
And that just that heart of surrender to what God has for you can really take you to some interesting places and some awesome situations.
Yeah, man.
And so I came back. We got Kelsey and I got married when I got back that next summer, and I really felt like we were supposed to go back and live in Asia, and she wasn't necessarily there yet. And so we took some months to process and decided to go back, and we ended up living there for 3 years. And then I came home or came back to America. We did found out a week after we landed that we were pregnant with
Wow.
our first son, which is crazy. And then I worked for 6 years doing recruiting and training and onboarding new team members, support raising training, all sorts of things like that. And so for those 6 years, just going out and talking to different college groups and churches and having conversations about the futures of these kids,
Yeah, man.
and what God had for them, and that was really, really special. And then about when was that? I don't even remember now. It was a 2.5 years ago, about just over 2 years. I finished up there, worked for a year at Elam Fellowship, doing some different things with them, really trying to be an advocate for young leaders there. And then since December 2019 is when I started working at College Assistance Plus, and then have gone through some role changes in the last year and a half too. So that's where I am, and there's been a few themes I would say that through those however many years, 14 years, 13 years.
Yeah.
Um, One is that it's really clear that God has two main values that He has for me is empowering and equipping,
Hmm.
and helping get people get to where they're supposed to be and where God has for them. And so
Love it.
that was really strong values even in my recruiting role. I did that for 6 years, 5 of those years as a recruiting director. Um, Helping people get over their fears, helping people understand what God has for them and expand the view. Sometimes that's on the mission field, but oftentimes that's in a lot of different places. But one thing that we see in almost everybody, especially someone who is just starting something or is increasing in a role or promotion, is that they never think they can do it.
Hmm.
And just helping them see what God has in them and what, you know, both the skills and talents, like the natural stuff, but then also how God can use them, empower them. Um, it's just cool to see people kind of break beyond the fear that they have to step into potential of what God has for them. And then
Yeah, man.
that's one of the reasons I'm working where I'm working now is that, and we could talk more about this, down the road, but um, especially financially, is that our generation and Gen Z is getting handicapped by school
For
and
sure.
college debt and student debt, and sometimes they need it, sometimes they don't, but it's basically causing a huge issue with our whole, multiple generations. That's causing them, we see different numbers of, they're not saving as much, which is going to hurt their retirement,
Hmm.
but they're also not able to start families, they're not able to buy houses, they're not able to get married, in whatever order they choose,
Yeah, man.
for them. But it's also very real is that I was a 21-year-old and I had the benefit of going to a really cheap college, and my mom helped me pay, and she was loaning me money, and I didn't have a loan payment to take care of as soon as I
Yeah.
graduated. And that gave me room and opportunity to explore a little bit. And what that did completely changed my life. And
Yeah.
so if there's ways that I can help families, not just 17, 18 year olds think more about what they want to do in their life and how they've been created and what skills and talents they have, but also the best way to get there, that they're not overwhelmed by student debt. That's a really good thing. So that really falls in line with that empowering and equipping people for what's up
Mm.
ahead.
Yeah, man. So would you say that you had I don't know, would you say that you were more suited toward one or the other, or was it just different seasons? Like when you were actually there overseas, as opposed to you kind of being on the home front and really focusing more on equipping and sending out the next group, to head overseas. Like was one that you just kind of felt was more you, or were they both just really good in different, seasons of
They were
life?
they were really great in different seasons. Even when we were there, um, about a year and a half of that 4 years, I was kind of a frontline, you know, uh, bottom, frontline worker. I was frontline worker all those 4 years, but I didn't have any leadership responsibilities that first year and a half.
Okay.
And then the second half of the second year, something happened with our leader, and I was kind of jumped into. It was actually crazy. Um, there was three couples that we were all on a team, and the main couple who was leading our team had to go home in the middle of the year, and I was jumped up
Mm.
into to leading that team. Now the
Wow.
funny thing is, it was three married couples, and so myself and the other married couple, the husband, we didn't get along very well. So it was, you could write it.
Did he like to cut his hair and trim his beard, and that
I
was
was
a source
groomed
of
at that point. I
conflict?
had a wife. I knew
Okay,
what was
at
going
that point you
on.
were married. I
But
know.
there's like most times there's insecurities in all situations, right?
Sure.
And when our insecurities go against each other, or when that's how what we're communicating out of, there's going to be hurt, there's going to be miscommunication, there's going to be issues, there's going to be arguing, there's going to be conflict, and not conflict in a good way. Like you can have conflict in a good way, but when
Yeah.
you're always when the goal of your conflict is to get more for you, and no matter what, that's going to hurt the other
Good
person.
point. Yeah.
And so I was just communicating and leading out of insecurity and hurt. And
Mhm.
so I learned a lot that year. And so, but the 2 years after that, we were leading teams and we were leading cities. My wife and I, the next year, we were leading the city, and that was 4, 8. It's like 15, 16 people that we were leading in that city.
Wow.
And then the next year, we were working with Alex and Jody, and we had another team of first year workers. And so I was wearing all sorts of different hats multiple times through the week. Like our last year, we were first year worker leaders. We were um, city leaders. I was a part-time language student. And then I was also helping to plant a church that year.
Mm.
So, and then I was also like a husband, right? And so it was always just, going in between different hats. And then when we got back to the States, it was more, traditional leadership within an organization that was a little more steady. Um,
Yeah.
but each of them had really special times, and that were good for different reasons, and bad for
Yeah.
different reasons, like anything.
Sure. Well, clearly too. I mean, obviously being over there and being a frontline worker and then working in that leadership capacity there and all the things that you learned, of course, that obviously prepared you and equipped you
Oh
to
my
better be
gosh.
able to lead and, help
Yeah.
people know what they were going into and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we were really lucky, and well, sometimes the position that the organization was in, we had to step into different roles that we weren't necessarily ready for.
Okay.
Um, and that taught us a lot. And it could have been really harmful for us, but luckily it wasn't.
Mm.
Um, we had scars, from those times, um, often from our own mistakes, but that's life. But just by the grace of God, we didn't walk away hating ministry or hating Christians or anything like that, um, which we were really lucky for. There's a lot of situations you hear missionaries having terrible experiences, whether it's
Yeah.
in here in the States or
Yeah.
overseas. And it's not like people and leaders. I think this is stuff. Most of the time, leaders have good intentions.
Hmm.
They don't want to hurt people, but
Yeah.
sometimes their stuff gets in the way and it ends up happening.
Yeah.
And so, but through all that, I mean, I was 22, 23, 24 years old, leading, you know, a dozen and a half people in cross cultural contexts in very serious situations. It's not like the army or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
I walked out, having, well, one, I was at the campus target for 10 years, which is nuts as a 32-year-old, 33-year-old, whatever it was. Um, having all those, all that experience, but then walking at it mostly healthy, learning a lot, growing it a lot. That's been really
Yeah,
beneficial for
man.
us in our life.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I think what you were saying earlier about, leading out of insecurity,
Hmm.
I think that's kind of the risk, right? Of I think that we're all into this idea of raising up leaders, raising up young leaders, and whether they're young in age or they're
Yeah, yeah,
older but they're new, believers, whatever the case may be. But like, I think that I'm really into raising people up and not making them wait all this time. But then like the sort of the risk that gets run there, which I've seen in my life, and as you're saying you saw in your life, and I think it's probably everybody, probably to an extent, everybody is, we do end up leading from a place of insecurity, and we're not, we're trying to wrap our heads around stuff and figure stuff out. We think we need to prove ourselves. Like I know that was a thing with
oh yeah,
me,
yeah.
even when I was in Mexico. It was like, doing certain things in ministry because I felt like I need to fit into this mold. I need to fit into this box. I need to be, accepted this way. And I need to, make a good impression. I need to do all this stuff.
Hmm.
And, I mean, it's kind of like anything, starting a new job or whatever. But then I think you end up, definitely leading from that place of insecurity. And what's that thing that
Absolutely.
everybody always says? Hurt
Or
people,
people.
right?
Absolutely.
So, when you're leading from that place, and so I think some of that is just always going to be there. Like there's something that's just normal about that. It's part of the growth process. But being able to withstand through it, to be able to reflect on it, to learn from, be able to see your mistakes, see where
Yeah.
you can grow, where you can increase, and then actually doing that. You know what I mean? So that now, you're in a context where you're able to teach others and raise up others and kind of walk them through some of those pitfalls and things like that
Yeah.
you went through. And it just gives you that ability to, even in a greater way, be able to impart strength and
Yeah.
guidance to those that you're working with now.
And I would also say, especially for younger leaders, and I think everybody, we're always looking to what's next. We're always saying, I wish I was a better blank. I wish I was a better,
True.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a ball.
I wish
I wish, but
I wish I
all of us
wasn't an
do
Eagles
that.
fan. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
sometimes. Um, all of us do that in different ways, and it hurts us in a few ways. One, it hurts us in not appreciating where we're at now,
Mm,
which is
true.
really difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the same, as we're both fathers of young kids, and I was just, my phone popped up. Also, Google Android, Google Pixel, amazing phone. Another shout out. Um, it was showing it was showing me pictures of 3 years ago, and our youngest is my daughter Nora. She's 3 years old, and I look back at where my boys were. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old now, and so they were 5 and 3, and I
Okay.
just look and I'm like, what the heck? Like, where has the last 3 years gone?
Wow.
And so if we're always looking ahead, we're not enjoying what's there with
Come
us
on.
right now, but also we are if we're always looking ahead and wishing for more, it's hard for us to rejoice in what's happened because we're
Yeah.
always looking ahead. Now, there's a balance there, right? If we're just living in the
Sure.
past, that's not good. But if we're always living in the future, there has to be a tension there, right? If you're
Yeah.
always looking for what's ahead, you're not happy with where you're at now and you're not enjoying it and you're not celebrating the past. If you're always looking in the past, you end up being a victim and
Mm,
you're not looking ahead to what's going to happen next too. So there's a tension there. Right? You have to take balances and
for
enjoy
sure,
it
man.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it's so key. It is so key
Yeah.
for everybody can probably relate to this. It's like uh, I believe our faith is anchored in the future. I would say because we're looking forward to what God has promised and what God has said,
Yeah.
and so it's important to keep that vision of what we're going after, what we're walking toward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise, if we don't have that, it's kind of like what people tell you in business. You need to have a strong why, or you need to, it's kind
Big
of
time.
like if we don't have that thing that's our focal point that we're looking at, that I know this is what God called me to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
then when
Or
things get
B.
really difficult and
Yeah. Yeah.
frustrating, then it's like easy to quit.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always that. Like I'm always trying to be, and I'm not trying to be super spiritual. I'm trying to be like Jesus, right? I know that's probably not going to be possible, right? Because I'm a terrible person. No,
Little by little, Josh.
little by
More,
little,
more and more. Yeah.
and so I want to be like that, and that gives me the hope because I know the Holy Spirit's in work in my life, and so I know that He's bringing me toward that, and that's some of obviously a ton of Him, and there's steps that I need to take also, and then also looking at my surroundings now and realizing that there's so much more for me.
Yeah.
Um, but we can't. It's that hope for the better tomorrow and hope for what life looks like 50 years from now, but
Yeah,
also
man.
looking back and saying, okay, what has He saved me from, and at the same time enjoying what's happening right now. I think there's beauty all
Yeah.
around us in our families and the situations that we're in and our friends. And I mean, we were just at 4th of July fireworks last night, and I made sure my phone was away because I was enjoying that that
Yeah, man. That's great.
experience and that fun. Um,
That's great.
and so there's a balance. You have to you can't just be looking in one direction. You need to be looking all
Exactly.
around. Um,
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going is like, having that future vision, but then being able to at the same time live in the present, to the
yeah,
point where like, there's contentment of, being content with what you have and where you are, but not contentment to the point of like, oh well, I'm good, I'm comfortable, I'm going to
it's
stay there
apathetic.
forever,
It's apathy. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And so yeah, man, that balance, that tension that you're talking about is so important because like I'll find that I'll be spending time with my family, but I'll be so concerned about this project that I need to get done that like I'm there, but I'm not actually present,
oh yeah,
mentally, emotionally. And then like I move on to the next thing and I'm working on the project now, but then there's like this guilt that like I didn't give my family what they needed, and you know what I mean? And so I just feel like I feel like being able to be present in your life where you are in the moment is just
hard.
so key. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's tricky, man. Like our minds are really like
I would say
not
depending on how
helpful sometimes.
you're wired too, is because I that can apply in all different areas, not just with the family. I think everybody is like, yes, you should put your phone away during family time. Like only dirtbags are like, actually, ESPN is much better than my kids. My kids are annoying. Like only, and I mean, some people think, and we all feel that sometimes that that happens. But even in situations like you're doing stuff at work, and I really think ahead, and I have all sorts of plans for everything, even not putting your best effort in your mind and your energy into what you're working on now because you're thinking about the big picture
Exactly.
can also be harmful in every area,
Yeah,
relationships and work and what we're doing, in every area of your life, physical health, mental health, all those different areas.
that's good, man. And that's
It's hard
that's
though.
mhm.
It's hard. Yeah.
And that's why we need each other too. Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing you got to kind of figure that out in your family. Hopefully maybe you and your wife kind of complement each other, and you can like, maybe certain areas where you're more focused on this kind of thing, but she's more,
Yeah.
and you kind of balance each other out. Like that's good. Definitely within organizations, whether it's business, ministry context, whatever, having people around us and not trying to do everything on our own,
Hmm.
because what we'll do is like those like sort of blind spots in my life, hopefully somebody else doesn't have those same blind spots. And so they're able to kind of point out in me, different things. Hopefully I accept that and I'm not, so insecure that I'm not willing to receive
Yeah.
that criticism or,
I've
you know
been
what I
meaning to
mean?
talk to you about something. We haven't talked in 13 years, but I have some insecurities though. No, it's true. It's if
Exactly.
you're not secure, you're not going to have great communication, and
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to help the people around you. Aren't going to be able to help as much.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I totally cut off. That was going to be a great point, Duke.
Well, it's over now, Josh.
Sorry.
You blew it. No, for real. No, I mean, just to kind of maybe wrap that thought up. It was just thinking about how when we try to go on our own and figure things out by ourselves and try to be quote unquote successful on our own, it's just like I don't think it's supposed to be like that. I don't think we're wired that way.
Definitely not.
There was somebody. It was the company that I work with slash used to work with. um, they would say something like this. I'm trying to remember what I'm stalling. I'm trying to remember what the statement was. It's like if you want to run fast, run alone.
Yeah,
If you want to run far, run together. Something like
absolutely.
that. And it's just to have that real like longevity and long-term success in anything that you're doing, you need people around you that can kind of balance you out. And we read this book as part of our pastoral team, this book called The Five Voices. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's co-authored, but one of the authors, his name is Jeremy
Of course, it's
Kubicek.
co-authored. It's called The Five Voices.
Exactly. That would have been a major
Jim,
oversight.
Bob, Kathy, Susan,
that would have been a major
and
oversight.
Kramer. They're all in my head. That's a very different book, sir.
That's absurd. That's amazing that you just went there. But anyway, it just talks about like understanding how you are being perceived to the world around you through the way that you talk and stuff like that. And then because we all have these filters that they're just subconscious or whatever, but like I filter what you're telling me through whatever that filter is of my personality, and so it's sort of like it's not like a personality profile kind of a thing, but it sort of works along those lines. It's like, this is my personality and how my personality is demonstrated in the way that I communicate with the world around me. And so like, it's just eye-opening when you start to see like, oh, this is the way that I am. And this is why it bothers me when so-and-so talks to me about this kind of stuff, and why I like certain things just fly over my head because it's just not the way that my mind operates. But we can all sort of grow in those areas, but we can't really grow if we're trying to do it alone. Like we need sounding boards, and we need people that kind of rub us the wrong way. And then we need to be willing to actually work together and communicate through some of those conflicts like you were talking about before, so that we can grow and we can have more effective communication, which ultimately leads to, more effective everything.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if I'm sure you've had the people that pulled the God card on you. Well, God told me, it's like, okay, why are you even talking to me about this? You've already decided. God told me I need to date this lady. Okay, who is she? Well, I'm 25. She's a 50-year-old widower. Like, no, this is probably not a good idea for you. Okay. That's obviously, but pulling that God card, because there's a balance here. There's a tension here. When they are just by themselves and they're just processing everything, is that there's so much other great, mentors and friends and people that can help. But then also it doesn't give people the room to engage. When you pull that card, it doesn't give anybody, because what are you going to say? No, God did not tell you that. It's like, okay,
right.
it's tough. But then I don't know exactly remember where I was going, but just the idea of connection and community. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, brother. I feel you.
Yeah. I was also going to say this when you were talking, is it's also important that you realize all this stuff is happening at the same time. So we need to be growing, we need to be looking at ourselves and growing ourselves, understanding our weak points, our insecurities, those things. We also need to be active in what's going on right now. If we're just inward focused, and this can be said about our individual selves, churches, organizations, but if we're all about growing ourselves, we forget that there's other people there. Now, I
Mm,
think it's good for us to grow as people, but oftentimes we're growing because someone else in life, whether it's our family, our kids, other people in, community, they need that person that we need to become.
yeah.
And so it's
Wow.
so important for us. We're never going to get to an end line. And so we need to be growing, but at the same time looking inward and outward. And the only way that happens is that you develop habits of doing both of those things at the same time. Rhythms of rest and reflection and growth
Come on.
and, you know, obviously quiet time with Jesus, connection with friends, crazy activity that you don't sleep more than 5 hours for a week straight. Like that all the dynamics of life is what stretches us and helps us grow. And all those things have to be involved.
So good. Love it. It's a good word, man. Let's get into a little bit on what you're doing now with College Assistance Plus. I'm super fascinated by this. I was really excited actually to talk to you about this in particular, and to just catch up and everything else that we've been
Of
doing.
course.
But you know what I mean. I've just been. This is so huge to me because, like you already alluded to earlier, college is crazy in terms of like. Okay, so my wife and I too, we were like really blessed to
Yeah.
be able to graduate from from the college that we went to with zero debt, like
Yeah.
zero debt. We didn't have any, I don't even think
It's
at the
it's
time
an
you could
it's
get
an anomaly.
loans,
It doesn't
but
happen
well, you get
anymore.
loans, but yeah, it was crazy. Like people are kind of, have been shocked at different points in my life where, I was talking with like a financial advisor or somebody like that going through, my situation. And they're like, you don't have any student debt at all. It's just like kind of like a fascinating thing. Cause I know people that are in their 50s that have good jobs. That's the thing. Like they have good jobs where they're making good money and they
Well, I mean
still
that's
have
another issue. That's another
student
issue
debt.
too. You're talking about, the people that need to go talk to Dave Ramsey. That's part of
Well,
it.
okay. Yeah.
Let
You're right.
let
You're
me
right.
talk to you about the 6 baby steps.
You gotta get
It,
these.
it's
You got
it,
yeah,
it's his entree leadership stuff is incredible. So if
for real.
it's great stuff.
Yeah.
But you're talking about someone is financial ineptitude, and that happens.
Well,
That's
but
part of it.
not always. I definitely.
I
Yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
you.
I think
the
you're right. I think you're right.
the
But
average student loan takes 20 years to pay off.
mhm.
So that's not all. That's not all. Just people being done with money. Um. So here I'll lay some
I
numbers
heard
for you.
I heard
So
the average like dental student graduates with $400,000 of student loan debt. And of course, they're in a field where they're going to be making pretty good money, supposedly, right? But it
so
takes
we
time to build up, even in that. And so, it's just like that's such a huge sort of weight that's just hanging over you as soon as you're ready to start your professional career. You know what I
so
mean?
let me run some numbers by you because numbers speak
Yeah, please,
wonders.
because
So
I
in
don't know what I'm talking
2004, when CAP started, College Assistance Plus started, uh, there was $350 billion of student debt. That's a crap load of money. Now, by the end of this year, the guesstimation is going to
about. Two
be about
trillion or
two
something, right?
trillion.
Yeah,
2 trillion.
that was a guess, but I
So
was right.
that's
That's awesome.
you're a magician, magic man. Um, so that's on average between $36,000 and $40,000 per student. Here's some tricky math though. The a student can only take out in their name between $27,000 and $31,000 in their name.
Oh, okay,
Anything above that, they need to have a credit-worthy cosigner.
okay,
So that's a parent, a grandparent, a crazy person on the street. What they need somebody.
yeah.
Here's the thing though, is that those are federal loans. And this has been in the news a lot. Even if you go and become bankrupt, you cannot,
Yeah,
off put those loans.
yeah.
And so anything above 30 grand, parents are taking on as loans. Parent plus loans is one of the most important. Again, government. If there's a million students a year that default on their loans. If a student defaults on loans, who needs to take care of those? Those parents.
Parents.
Because they're government loans, they can dock your wages. They can
Mm,
take out your Social Security. They can dock your Medicaid. Like
wow.
government's going to get theirs. Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And also, since we started in 2004, schools have doubled their price on average.
Mm.
The average school
Since
raises their
2004,
price
you said?
2004.
Wow.
So, where, school was what are some? I wish I had pulled up. There's some, decent schools like Vanderbilt's one that I know off the top of my head
Hmm.
was $35,000 a year in 2004. Now it's like 74
A year.
a year. So you'll have. I'll go through some. There's
Oh
some
my
basic
gosh.
tiers, and here in New York and most around other places, state schools are right around $25,000 a year for a state school.
Mm.
That's
Wow.
and then the next tier up is like that 35 to 45 range, and these are mostly private schools, medium-sized private schools.
Okay.
And then the top end schools are between $65 and $75,000 a year in 4 years, and because they're going up by 3%. I was talking to a student who was looking at what school was it? I forget what school it was, but right now it's about $74,000 a year. This school is going up and has been going up about 3 to 4% a year. By the time they finish their schooling, it's going to be over $80,000 per year. I think it's going to be 83 or $84,000 per
Oh
year,
my gosh.
and that's just insane. So
That's
you're talking about
nuts.
300,000. Now there's financial aid there and things like that, but
Sure.
here's a few other kickers. One of the things that gets us most in trouble, I'll go through a few things. One is people think that their smart kid is special and is going to get a full ride to whatever. And that's just not the
Right.
case. Schools do
Okay.
not give full rides. Like only we've served thousands of clients and we've only gotten a full ride a couple times, like less than
Okay.
5 times, 5 or 6 times maybe. And we're talking about like 3,000, 4,000 different
Yeah.
clients and families that we serve. It just doesn't happen.
So quick
I have a
question on
client.
those that you did see where they were able to get a full ride, was that based on academics or was that based
So
on sports or what was that?
the president of Harvard was under oath last year, and they asked, okay, what's the term of financial aid? Let me digress a little bit. If you're trying to go, you're top of your class, 4.0, 1600. Here's the thing. People think, oh, well, that's going to get me a full ride or tons of money from Yale or Harvard. Here's the thing.
Right.
You need to do that. You need to have 4.0 and a 1600 to even get admitted into the school. They're not
Mm.
giving full rides. Why? Because that's the starting point. You're
Wow.
also competing against every other student in the world. Everybody who wants to be a doctor, is going to these different schools.
True.
Another good example is UNC Medical School, University of North Carolina, amazing medical school. But that program, if you're trying to get in the program, you're competing against not just everybody in your state or country.
Yeah.
You're competing against the valedictorian in France and China and all these things, and their
Wow. Yeah, that's
international
crazy.
students are paying full price. And so
Wow.
a school is not like a community service. They're a business. They want to make money. They want to
Sure.
make money off of you. And
Sure.
so
Off of
um
you.
all they do, they're a business. They want, like,
Yeah.
they don't care. Like I would say oftentimes professors or people like that want to educate. But if you're an administrator at a school, you want to get as much money from students as possible because you are a
Mm.
business.
Yeah.
So where was I? Okay. So even if you are an amazing student, I have a student that I worked with this last year. Uh, One of the top members in his class, 4.0, awesome SAT, um, wanting to go to school, a good school, not an incredible school. Like it's one of the better engineering schools here in the Northeast.
Okay.
And his parents, they have multiple kids, pulling off their tax information. The schools ask for all your information too. That's not something else we could talk about. And they tell you how much you can pay every year. So they get all your financial information, and the school says, hey, based on your finances, you're going to pay blank and blank a year. So I actually have this right here. So if your EFC, it's called expected family contribution. So if you make $80,000 a year and you have one kid in college, they're expecting every year to contribute $10,500 to your school every single year.
Okay.
Say you're making 120 grand a year, 150. They're expecting you to pay almost $33,000 a year for that school. And
Okay.
they're not going to give you financial aid more than that number because they're saying, hey, you can pay this amount.
Right. Right. Right.
And so I have a student that I was working with, amazing grades, going to a good school. We're not talking about MIT here,
Hmm.
but for a few different reasons, their family's AGI was lower, right around under $40,000 a year.
Hmm.
and he's going to the school for $12,000 a year.
Wow.
And so that's a good deal. But even if you think about that in context, is that it's going to be hard for them to get loans.
Sure.
It's not like they have
Sure.
40 grand sitting around, and it's still in the best circumstances, 12 grand a year. And that's
Yeah.
the best deal. Usually it's between 17 and $25,000 a year in most circumstances.
Right.
And if
Yeah.
your family makes enough, you're paying, a bunch of money. You're
Sure.
still getting some merit-based aid, but it's a ton of money. So it's just the whole system. Oh, another problem I was going to say is that people want to brag about their kids, which is fine. My kid's an honor student. That's good.
Sure.
Around here, there's something called as what is it called? It's basically a student of the month,
Uh-huh.
habit of minds award, and you see all the stickers on everybody's minivans. It's awesome. But everybody wants to say, hey, my student is a student at blankety blank blank, whatever it is. USC or Yale or Brown or
Right.
Harvard or
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
UNC. It's honor brag. So last year, the get back to your question, the president of Harvard said, here's a few ways you can get a full ride. One, if you're 7 foot tall, go play
Wow.
basketball. We'll give
Okay.
you a full ride.
Yeah.
Two, if you can pay full price, that's how you get in. If you could pay our $75,000 a year full price, this is not like bribery. You just call the admissions office and say, hey, we'll pay full price, and you're going to the top of the list because they
Wow.
want your money.
Okay.
And I think number 4 or 5 is if you're a really great student. And so
Okay.
it's all about this. It's all a
Yeah, man.
game to them, and they want to get as much money from you as possible. And so one of the biggest things that we do is we help students. There's 6 steps that we walk through. I won't walk through all of them, but we help students understand what they're actually trying to achieve with college.
Mm.
Because you'll hear people throw around the term college experience. Okay, if you want to give me $25,000 a year, I can give your son or daughter a great experience,
Come on.
and I'll be your travel agent, no
Yeah.
problem. You don't go and pay that much amount of money for a college experience. That's stupid.
Yeah. Right.
Don't do
Yeah.
that.
I agree.
You also have people going to schools that they have no business going to, because they want to be seen as more prestigious.
Mm.
One of the things that we'll hear from guidance counselors, you got a 4.0, you got this and this and this. You should really target your reach schools, which means your reach schools are your academic reach schools
Sure.
that
Yeah.
you're going to pay more money for because they're not going to give you financial aid because you're just as
Right.
smart or a
Yeah.
little less smart than
You
everybody
just got
else.
in the door, kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. They're not.
Yeah.
They're giving money to all stars, and then so we help people understand. Okay, what are you actually going to school for? Because it's not just a good degree. We want to help you actually launch into your career. So we go
That's
through
good.
career coaching and help them understand what their financial profile is, what their academic profile is. So there's a story I want to tell you. This is kind of crazy. This is like the worst example. So when I was a recruiter for Campus Target, we were talking to college kids all the time. And there's this girl, her name was Lauren, and she had gone to be a social worker. Now, I don't know about Alabama, but social workers here in New York make $35,000-$40,000 a year. Okay, that's fine. It's not incredible money. It's not a lot. It's on the lower end.
Yeah.
And so she had gone through to a private college. So she had a really sad story. When she was younger, her dad had passed away. She was raised by her mom, and she had a great stepdad. While she was in school, her mom actually passed away.
Wow.
And so she had known that she had taken about $85,000 of student loans out to get through her degree.
Wow.
She found out about 2 weeks before she graduated. Her mom had passed away the year before. She found out her mom had taken another $20,000 to $25,000 of student loans out. So she was walking out with a degree in social work, a undergrad
Wow.
degree, and she
Yeah.
was $110,000 in debt. That's insane.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. Now, if you're going into debt, one of the rules that we tell people is don't take out more than your first year's salary. So if you're going to be a teacher, a worthy profession, a great profession for a lot of people,
Sure.
don't be taking out 60 grand a year. You're never making that much in your life.
Right.
And that's how you pay for forever. Now, if you're going to be an engineer and you're making $75,000 or $80,000 a year, you have a little bit more room there.
Sure.
But still, that's the way that people get so slammed by debt. You talked about a dentist student. We have one of our original clients. went to be a doctor, and he's a radiologist, making $270,000 a year. Amazing. Between him and his wife, they still had 400,000 plus a year of debt.
Yeah, man.
And they're talking about where they're a decade into their 15 years into their career, a decade probably. And they can only get a mortgage for $150,000.
Wow.
How crazy is that? And so if you're going into a medical career or you need a PhD, there's, certain people need that. Lawyers are going to need a lot,
Yeah,
doctors,
man.
but especially if you're going, you need to figure out what you want to accomplish and why you want to get the education that you want, and then go for that with the least amount of cost possible. So that was all rambling a little bit, but I
No,
hope it's
man,
clear.
it's good. It's like eye-opening stuff for real. Like, do you ever have that conversation with people where you're doing like the career counseling and figuring out, okay, like just because you want to go to this school because you want
Yeah.
this experience or because your uncle went there or whatever, like that might not be the best thing. Like, does that conversation ever end
Oh,
up
it
with you
needs to.
saying, well, no, so
Oh, yeah,
like
I know what you're saying.
I'm wondering, you might not know where I'm going with this. You might. Does that conversation ever end up with you saying, "Hey, the best move for you, based on what you want to do, is to not go to college"?
I
Does
don't
it
ever
ever
say
end
that
up
because that's
there,
bad.
or are you always
Thi-
trying to like?
This
I
is
mean,
like your mom telling you to clean your room. You're like, no, mom, no, thank you. You never
I mean,
want to.
what being on the inside of something like this, like, what's your perspective on that? Because I don't know. I don't know, and maybe you'll turn me around on this. I think that there are some people that like based on what they want to do, what their aspirations are. Maybe their aspirations are to start a business or like different things that they want to do. And I I don't know. Does everybody do you think that everyone should have a college education, or do you think that there's it's a more of a case by case basis, and some people are better off like not getting into this debt, not spending that money, and instead doing going a different route?
So I would say this. I would
Are you gonna get
say
in trouble if for these
no,
questions?
no,
Okay.
no, no, definitely not. Because I'll give you a few examples. One is I'm working with a client right now. She's thinking about going into music or creative design or something like that, art design.
Yeah.
If you're going to be, this is actually a great example, a graphic design artist. There's a few ways you can get there, right? You don't need any licensure or certificate to be a creative, a graphic designer.
Hmm.
I was thinking of Marcus. I was listening to your conversation with Marcus. He
Yeah.
doesn't have to go to school. He did, but he doesn't have to go to school to sell t-shirts and to be a graphic designer, right?
Right. Hmm.
Now, if I'm going to be a lawyer or a doctor, I do.
Oh, of course.
So I'm working with this girl. Her parents don't have tons of money, and I'm saying, let's talk about the best opportunity. Really, there's two ways to get to where you want to go. One is you either go to school and you take out money and you have debt, and that's going to get, kind of jumpstart. Hopefully you make some connections and networking and you get a great job. Or you just go get a normal job and you build your portfolio, right?
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
if I'm, I don't, we just redesigned our website, collegeassistanceplus.com, and
Nice.
it's beautiful. It's awesome. But I don't give a rip if my designer went to school for graphic design. I want to see
Okay.
his past work, right?
Yeah.
I'd also say is that people think that, and I don't like academics. I'll just go out there. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I don't like academics who think that the ivory tower is the place to be. I went to school recently. I just finished up my bachelor's a couple of years ago, and the guy who's now retired, thank goodness, he had been an academic his whole life, and he was a PhD. And so, in some ways, colleges are teaching kids that education is where they need what they need in order to get to where they want to be. I like
Right.
that.
Uh-huh.
I like that header. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
And
welcome.
that's not true in a lot of circumstances. If the goal of my education is to get more education, that's bad. It's like the
Okay.
professional students that now certain times you're going to need that education, but if someone is teaching me and they've never actually done it, like I don't care about your theory. Like show
Right.
me what you've actually
Right.
done.
Yeah.
I'd
I
also
agree with
say
you.
is that it's important, even if we don't go to college, we need to be learners. Because
Absolutely.
I've met people with advanced degrees that stop learning when they finished at college and they're dumb as rocks
Yeah.
because they haven't adapted.
Actualized. Yeah, for sure.
If you're not reading and learning new things, you're just stuck in the water.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
you need to understand, to get back to your original question, you need to understand where you're going in life. What does God have for you? What are the talents and skills that you have? What opportunities do you want to pursue? Do you want to work in a
Mm,
corporation? If you want to work a corporation, you're probably going to need a degree.
right.
If you want to start your own business, hey, you know what's not a great way to start your own business? Having $50,000 of debt that you need to pay off every single month. It just doesn't. It's not going to work.
Well, I've heard
Um,
of some families where, like, the parents are somewhat well off, like they've got decent jobs. Like I've heard of them saying, like, going this route where, okay, as opposed to, like, okay, you want to go into business. All right, so I can spend $200,000 over the next 4 years to send you to college, or I can give you $50,000 to start a business. You know what I mean? And of course, that's not going to work
Absolutely.
for everybody. But I mean, I just kind of thinking of, I think that that's a nice practical way to approach something, where you can get some really good experience by going out. And even if you fail in the process, like what you learn by doing something as
Yeah.
opposed to just being taught about it. Again, obviously, this doesn't work if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be, of course, it doesn't work across the board. But for some people, I really do think that there's other kinds of options. And
I agree 100%. And that's where you need to know your kid. And like there's some clients we talk to, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, if I was this kid's parent, I would not be investing in college right now because they are gonna blow it. They are
that kid's
not
not
they're
going
not
to
mature.
college.
They're not mature enough. I mean, beyond the fact that we're trying to get these 18, 17, 18-year-olds decide what they want to do with their life, it's
Yeah,
idiotic.
it's crazy.
Um, but at least if you're headed in the right direction, that's good. I would say with the $50,000 to your son or daughter idea, or $10,000, what it is,
Right. Yeah.
you need to know your kid. Like my 8-year-old, now he was 7 last summer. I helped him start a little smoothie business, and he made like $80 this last summer, and it was awesome. And he's 7 years old, and but I'm training them in what I want them to be good at, whether that's ministry, whether that's business, whether that's relationships. And so if you think your kid can handle that,
Yeah.
like get him in an internship at 16-year-old in your office or with a friend. Uh, get them, do stuff. You're obviously not that's actually a funny example, because if you told that to a lot of parents, they would say that is ridiculous. I would never
Hmm.
trust my kid with $50,000. I'm like, you're trusting him with $200,000
Yeah. To like
just
get
so you
up on
think that
time, to go
college
to
is a safe
class,
place.
to all that.
It's really not.
Yeah.
So one of the things I would love, and this is kind of a dream of mine in the future, is starting an organization, and Joe Wicks actually does this over in Utica in New York. He's working with some different community groups. I love to set up a system of apprenticeships and mentorship between high schools and businesses.
Mm,
An issue that we have currently is that companies do not want to invest in the growth of their people.
okay.
Uh, I
Yeah.
I Before I
100%.
got this job, I was interviewing with a talent recruiter, or like a recruitment service. And one of the things that you'll see is in a lot of these companies, it'll say, we want this level of experience and we're not hiring entry level positions. And every single company is doing that because they want all the 22-year-old dummies that just got out of school. Not all of them are dummies. Don't be offended.
Sure.
But all the 22-year-olds that just got out of college, they want them to learn on someone else's dime. But if you want to build loyalty within your employees and build actually good culture, help them not have to suffer through the negative things they need before you hire them. And
Wow.
that's going to build a better employee who is better served to work in your company. And it's kind of like it goes back to, what was the quote? It was from either like Ford or GE or Walmart or or maybe Chick-fil-A. Maybe I think it was Chick-fil-A. And the quote was, why are you spending so much money on training all these 17, 18, 19-year-olds? You're wasting so much time because they're going to leave in a year. And
Right.
the guy said, you know what? Here's the issue. I see where you're coming from, but what happens if I don't train them now and they stick around for 10 years? the idea is that we need to be investing in the people that we're working with,
Yeah, absolutely.
because that's only going to be helpful. So I'd love to set up something where companies are directly connecting with high schools and having open internships. They're having training programs. Like, here's a good example. If you had 5 construction companies, and they do the trades is an easy one. Let's go a little harder. Let's go architecture. So you have to have different licenses to work as an architect. What if you had 5 different companies that for 4 days a week, you had a group of 10 people, 10 students, 18, 19-year-olds that just graduated college. They're all working day-to-day stuff in these architecture firms, doing whatever, answering the phone, something
Yeah.
that doesn't require. But every Friday, these 5 companies get all their everybody in one room, and they have class every day or every Friday. And they do that for a few years. It's a contract that they build in. Uh, and then after a couple years, you have all these students that are extremely loyal to you, hopefully, because you've
Mhm.
been training them. They didn't have to spend $200,000 a year to go get a degree, and eventually they can step in a role with passing the right certificates and licenses to be an architect. And so I love
Yeah, man.
thinking of ideas like that, where we're preparing kids for the lives that they want to lead and what God has for them, without saying you need to go spend $100,000,
Mm.
$150,000, $200,000.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
Yeah, rethinking some of this stuff is I think it's so necessary, right? And
yeah,
I mean, and obviously you're very much involved in this conversation because of the work that you do. I think that's so great. I mean, it's just like I definitely feel like I mean, if we go back a number of years, couple of decades, the thing was like the big thing was like you need to get a college education, like, and this is the way that this is done, and but I mean, the issue with some of this stuff now is that kids are spending all this money and going to school, and I'm not anti college. Like, I hope that's not coming across in the questions I'm asking, but I'm just curious. But it's like, uh the job security of like coming out of school and being able to go right into your field, it doesn't happen for a lot of people,
yeah.
and
I
so
mean,
that's an issue as well. And so definitely rethinking and re-innovating. And I mean, I think it's really in some ways like it's a broken system that really like needs to be fixed. And so I love what you're doing. I love what your organization is doing, in that, okay, well, we can't exactly like fight the system, but what we can do is we can find ways to make this as
yeah,
profitable, or as as simple, as easy it is for you as possible to get in there and to get your to go through your academics and your course of study, and to come out with it being as little burden on you as
yeah.
possible.
There's one way that we do this that is extremely effective, and I don't think people this will blow people's minds. So we have 6 steps that we walk people through: clarity on your career, understanding your financial profile and your academic profile. That leads to getting a great list of schools. And then helping with SATs and essay and applications. I'm skimming this really quick. There's more
Sure.
information on collegeassistanceplus.com. And then that's going to lead to your maximized first financial offer, because we're sending to the right schools. You're applying there. You have the best, you put your best foot forward. But then our last step that we often do, not in every circumstance, is that we actually appeal to colleges for more financial aid. And this is kind
Mm,
of nuts. People think that schools are out for their best interest, and they're not. They want your money,
right.
and they want you as a student. One of the things that they get ranked on is student retention. So they want kids that are going to stay there for all 4 years. And so one of the things that we do is, after we get financial aid offers, we'll look through and say, is there a better deal out there? And people might be offended. They're like, well, of course, these schools are so prestigious. We're just lucky to get in. That's insane. If I was buying a car,
It's insane.
it's insane. Listen, because they think,
Yeah,
again, it's
man.
realizing
I'm
that
with you.
colleges are businesses and they want you as a customer, right?
Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
not like you're like, oh my gosh, I love Lord of the Rings. I got into the fellowship of the ring. Like, I'm so it's not like that.
Oh, by the way,
There's
this is going to be the most dangerous thing you've ever done, and you're probably going to die.
yeah,
But you're
kind of
so
like going
lucky
to
to be here.
college.
You kind of like going to college.
No,
Yeah.
I'm joking. But it's
But I,
like,
li- I like I like where you
if
were going
you
there,
apply that
relating
to
it to
other,
buying a car.
if you applied to buying a car, could you ever say, be like, oh my gosh, that Ford dealer or that Toyota, I am so lucky that Mercedes is letting me buy a car. how it's like that's
But hey,
insane.
man, if you have bad credit and like you do feel that way, like you
Oh,
feel
absolutely.
you feel like, oh man, I didn't think I was gonna be able to do this, and now
And
they're telling me that I can. I'm part of the club. Like,
and that's why you see, especially color, African American communities and people of color of communities have some of the worst situations of student debt because
wow.
some oftentimes inner city kids, whatever that looks like. Obviously,
Hmm.
I'm this is kind of broad brushing,
General, yeah,
but their parents aren't going to pay able to pay into school, and they'll go to schools and they'll walk out with $60,000-$80,000 of debt, and like, what?
yeah,
That's
man.
crazy. Yes, you got an education, but you're completely screwed for the rest of your life because you have this debt.
Wow.
And so what we do is, going back to the car analogy because it's really easy. You know, I'm if I'm going to a Mercedes dealer and I say, oh, the Ford, pardon me, the Ford dealer is going to give me this deal. And it's like, okay, I don't care if you buy Ford. We're not competitors. It's like, go drive your Geo, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so we'll find competing offers. So you go get an offer from BMW and take it back to Mercedes, or you go, maybe you want to. We're in the minivan market, so you go look in Dodge and GMC, or whatever that is.
Yeah, man.
And you say, hey, I can buy this Toyota over here for $4,000 less, but I like your minivan better. So can you give me more money?
Yeah.
And our success rate this last year has been about 75% success on those appeal letters,
Oh
over a
man,
couple
that's awesome.
hundred. And that's since the beginning of COVID, we've gained an additional $3.5 million of financial aid. So that's
Wow.
on top. So that's initial financial aid offer, appeals, and then that leads to more money. So that's average about $20,000 per family. Now, it doesn't happen in all circumstances, and we can't do that in
Sure.
everything. But I think the thing is that these are not like community service that just want to give you the great deal to get you the education. They're businesses, and
Yeah.
we need to act like consumers, and we can negotiate with these schools. One of the
Wow.
things, well, is the school going to rescind the offer? We've never seen that. It's like
Mm,
they're not going to be so offended. Well, what if they're offended and they pull
right.
it? It doesn't happen. It's, again, car metaphor.
Right.
The guy's not
They
going to
want your
say like,
business.
I am so offended that I'm not even going to let you buy my car. It's like, that's stupid. He might say, well, we can't go any lower, but you still have the opportunity to buy, and that's your choice. But it's the same thing. It's
I used to do that 'cause, like, I work in financial services and I sell like mainly like life insurance and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
don't do a whole lot of it now, but I used to kind of do that with people. Like if people were giving me too much pushback, I would start to pack my stuff up. It's
yeah.
like really good reverse psychology. I start to pack my stuff and be like, you know what, I really appreciate your time. It doesn't seem like this is gonna work, and I don't feel like I'm in the best position to serve you guys. And then like every single time I did that, bro, they would stop me. Like,
Yeah,
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
because it's so much time, it's so much work, it's so much energy on their part to find another partner to dance with.
Yeah.
And you think about, again, as college kids, they're spending money on every single student that's coming into their seats. And that's also why, if you're a good student, your freshman or your sophomore year, you're more valuable to that school than some person off the streets, because they can, if you can keep you there. So we'll often also appeal in between school years for potential more money, too.
Mm,
So not in every
wow.
circumstances, but there's lots of
Yeah.
money out there for people.
That's
So
awesome though, man.
yeah, it's fun.
For real. What was it like for you starting with this company like right before COVID hit? Did that was it a major impact on what you were doing? I'm wondering, like, is most of what you do, is it via like video conference and stuff like that anyway, or like
It is
how did
now.
that affect you? It
It
is
was
now.
pretty crazy, actually. We did the majority of our work. We were doing live seminars and talking at libraries and community eds and high schools and things like that. And so March 15th or 17th, whatever it was, a day or two after the NBA shut down, that
Mm,
week we lost 20 seminars. They just
whoa.
they all got canceled. So we were like, oh
Wow.
crap. And so we've gone through a major transition. I was hired as a consult, two kind of hats, doing sales and then consulting, working with our clients. That's our
Hmm.
consultants that those are the people that work directly with our clients. And so yeah, my role has changed a lot since then. Uh, One of the cool things is, because I was coming from the outside, I had a different perspective, and I was able to bring new ideas to the table. And so I've been given a lot of leeway to design some new platforms and services. So we have three main services that we help people with. One is our full service package, which is basically one-on-one with a consultant.
Okay.
The next is a membership model, which is kind of what I put forward and designing and running right now. And it's $99 a month. And starting at the beginning of your junior year, we have another cohort starting in September, and it walks through every step of that process that we're walking through our our full service clients with. And then you also get a an hour of consultant time every single month, and then 2 live webinars, and we basically educate people through the process. And then we also do just appeals and financial reviews for families too. So it given a lot of opportunity for us to say, how can we change what we're doing to better connect with our customers, which everybody, if you didn't do that for the last 18 months, you're not here anymore, whether you're a church or
Right.
whether you're a
Yeah,
business. It's just not possible.
for
So
sure.
just being really flexible and saying, how can we serve our customers better? How can we achieve our goals better, more effectively, and have our team really together on moving forward?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, so cool. So how do you start the process? Is this like when kids are like seniors in high school, or does it start before that in
Too
some
late. Yeah.
cases, or is it
Well, I think it depends on what part of the process that you want to jump into. I would say if you have kids that are in middle school or later, you need to be talking to your financial advisor,
okay?
just because you need to be there's all sorts of ways that you can save for college. One of the best ways is just to save, just saving money. That's good. Um we start working with clients in between their 10th and 11th grade year. That's the perfect time where
Okay.
there's so much time to walk through the whole process and not be rushed at any time. If you're going to your senior year of college, or I'm sorry, your senior year of high school, you still have time, but it's getting a little close to being late
Okay.
because you're applying to schools in November, December of your senior year. And you should have already taken your SAT. And so it's like, if you're entering your
Yeah.
senior year, we can definitely help you, but it's definitely more of a, hey, we need to go, full fledged and run at this hardcore, or you're gonna have a bad school list to apply to.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then if you're a senior right now getting ready, as long as you haven't paid anything on your bill and you haven't stepped on college campus, your tuition and your costs are still negotiable. And so there's definitely opportunities for everybody in that spectrum to get involved and start the process now. I think the most important thing is just don't stick your head in the sand. It's better to
Yeah, man.
start sooner because it's so expensive. It's like, again, if you're buying a house, and this is what it costs in some situations, if you're buying a house, you're not going to say, "Oh, I haven't been thinking about this cost, this expense for the last 10 years. I'm just going to wait and I'm going to buy a house in a month, so I'm just going to start now." It's like, no, it takes
Right.
years to do the planning that you need for your down payment and for all that stuff. So the sooner the better. Um, and again, it depends how old your kids are and how close they are and
Yeah,
your
man.
financial profile, your academic profile, what all that looks like.
Yeah, man. So for any parents and or students that are, potentially, thinking about these sort of things, whether we're talking about parents that are sort of looking ahead to, maybe their kids are only 10 or 12, or,
Yeah.
maybe they're younger right now, but they want to start looking ahead to how they can be better prepared and how they can save and all this kind of stuff and be prepared for like what the process is going to be like. And then also for, any students that are older or slash parents of students that are older that are in high school and that are looking for how they can get some more assistance, or just maybe have someone come alongside them and just do what you guys do. Where would you direct somebody to just to get some more
So
resources or
so I would say
information?
two things. Two things. You could go to college. Well, I'll say three things. One is if your kids are really young, you should talk to a financial planner just to start
Okay.
saying, "Hey, I'm going to send my kid there." We have some suggestions that we work with a number of financial planners all over the place. So if you need help with that, we can help. You could go to College Assistance Plus, obviously, and also in the link of this show, I'm going to and I'll send this to you. Link. I have a Calendly link that you could set up a free
Okay.
consultation with me personally
Oh, that's awesome.
to just 30 minutes of saying, okay, where are you at, what do you need, what are your biggest questions, and then we could figure out if there's a way we could serve you, or there's next steps that we think that would be great for you. And so I'd love to be able to serve any of your listeners, or any that's not like a you know uh feel free for anybody to
You
use
didn't
that.
have to be on the podcast.
You didn't have to be on the podcast.
In other words, you didn't have to be watching the podcast to get this. So you can
Absolutely.
share that. You can feel free to invite or share that with somebody that you know.
100%.
And that's so huge, man. That's super helpful.
Yeah, CAP was started. One of the reasons CAP was started is our founder was on a college board, and the biggest topic of that meeting was his first meeting was if they wanted to put a $950,000 waveless swimming pool in, because they wanted to compete with all the other schools around.
Okay.
And that's kind of the idea. That was in like the early mid 90s. And so that's the idea, is that if you're going in this with your head in the sand, you're going to spend way too much for maybe a degree that your kid doesn't even need or want.
Wow.
Think through the process, be really intentional, and it's going to mostly come out well.
That's awesome, man. That's so helpful. Yeah. Really appreciate that, man. Really appreciate you sharing that and all of your insights. And I just think that's awesome. I think it's awesome work that you're doing there. And
I would also say, if you made it this long, if you have if you're a church, if you're a church or a leader, we want to give resources that the church family too. So if you're a leader that you want to help educate your congregation on this stuff, I'd be happy to present and share with your congregation too.
Yeah. Am I remembering correctly? You said something about the founder of the organization being I don't want to
believer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I finished my sentence for me, Josh. No, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're working with a number of homeschool associations and a number of Christian schools and private schools, a number of radio stations and people we're working with. We definitely want to be a benefit to the community. Here's the thing: if I was a 21-year-old and $50,000 of student debt, I wouldn't have been able to go to Asia for a year. That completely changed my life.
Wow.
And so if we're able to help people get out of that financial ruinous situation where they have $300,000 debt or $100,000 debt that they're never able to pay for, they're going to be able to engage in what God has for them. Maybe they can take that part-time pastor position. Maybe they can take their family on the other side of the world to be missionaries. Maybe they can give to their community more. It just helps so much in every area of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, buddy. Thank you, man.
This was a blast.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Really, really glad you did this with me. Appreciate you.
Thanks for the invitation. And Josh Whippy, go check him out.
Josh Whippy. Make sure you check out Josh Whippy. Make sure you check out if you're in that mode of life right now. Maybe you have kids that are in high school or even middle school, and you're looking forward to just looking ahead to planning for college and all that kind of stuff, especially if there's any confusion surrounding it for you. Check this out, collegeassistanceplus.com. And we'll make sure that we have that link in the show notes of the podcast here. And we'll post the link too, along with the video of this on like Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff like that as well. So that if you're interested in checking any of that out, but I would definitely super recommend if you have any confusion in this area, you're interested in some more resources, more information, or you know somebody who is, take Josh up on this offer for this free consultation by signing up at the Calendly link. It'd just be awesome. And obviously he's a really sort of, down to earth guy who would be more than happy to serve you in any way that he can. Low pressure situation there. So, but yeah, thank you, Josh. Appreciate you, brother. I'll look forward to doing this again with you, man.
Yeah. Let's make sure it's not another 13 years.
Yeah. I just need, if we take that ratio, we just spent like 2 hours together. Point. Yeah, we spent 2 hours together. So I just need about maybe like a day off to kind of detox, and then.
So I'll see you at 12 tomorrow.
Yeah, it would be good. We'll do this again tomorrow. No, man, I love you, bro. Definitely don't disconnect yet, because we'll talk a minute after I end the stream here. But thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys for being here. We'll be back with the next episode on Thursday. This episode will be uploaded later on to Spotify, Apple, Google, all the major podcast platforms, and you can check all past episodes out there as well. The link is redcircle.com/shows/real live talk. Sorry that's so long, but that's just what it is for the time being. So thank you guys again. Have an awesome day.